Hello, hello. I'm Laura Neves, your favorite repentant sinner here with biblical tips for the proverbial trophy wives. And you are very, very welcome to the first episode of the Flash Killer podcast. It is almost midnight, but I couldn't let this day end without starting this because this is day 39 of my 60-day fast. I wanna can't read without it, and then there's this reflection on my face, but anyway. And so I am 21 days before I finish my complete and total challenge. So it is a very important day today, so I wanted to start it right now. This is why I'm doing this at this hour, and this is why it's unedited. It's just gonna go the way it goes, okay? So I'm not going to start this podcast by reading your list. Yes, I have prompts because I forget. Okay. I'm not gonna cast a list of everything. I'm just gonna tell you things how they are in raw. Okay. So let me tell you what it feels like being 39 days without food completely. So physically, I feel that I have no energy. If I run, if I chase my child, I feel like I'm going to faint. My mouth is dry all the time. And I don't have smelling buds. I think it's smelling buds. COVID and many other things I will tell you later. But I cook all the time and I touch food. And it is torturous. And so I have no fuel, physically speaking. I go to the gym so that I can keep a little bit of my muscles, but nothing too heavy, nothing that spikes the energy and drops my sugar too low, because 39 days without anything, my body is just going crazy. And then what happens in that state? You get this crazy silent focus. If you're doing this correctly, for the right reasons and the correct way. This is why I needed to start this podcast today, so that I could share with you guys mistakes that I made that no one told me about, things that no one warned me, important scripture that was involved in real religious fasting that no one told me. And so I'm gonna tell you guys, because this isn't my first time in a rodeo. I already fasted for 40 days last year, and let me tell you, so many mistakes were done, so many wrong doings. Anyway, so the first mistake that I made, that I always made, excuse me, I need some salt. Isn't it lovely? It's a little Tupperware where I keep my salt so I don't die. Okay. First mistake you can make, and if you're doing it right now, just stop, is when you fast without praying. You fast just for just to prove that you're strong, just to prove that you can, just to show people how you're suffering from not eating. And especially when you're trying to make it about you. So the first mistake is your fasting journey is not about dethroning food. It's not about taking food out of the altar. It's about you and your pretty little body and getting thin and getting attention for yourself. If you're doing that, stop. God will not receive your fasting. God will not receive your sacrifice. It is a waste of time. There's scripture for that. I will put it later. You can see my eyes. I'm very tired. I just need to put it out. Mistake number 2 is when you are fasting for vanity. And then instead of dethroning the Lord Almighty food, you start to worship your own body. And I did that. I lost so much weight. I would wake up at night and stare in the mirror just to see how my bones were looking. Or I would, after I came back to my diet and started eating again, I would step on the scale to see if I gained weight and how thin I was. So those are common mistakes that I made, and I see people doing that a lot. So fasting is supposed to be about you killing your need for food and feeding yourself with scripture rather than food. The altar is for the one who should be praised, God. And dethroning who should not be there, food. And how does that change? How can you do that? You have to pray. You have to. These are 3 things that I designed here. So the first one is whenever you feel hungry, you go and you pray. Get on your knees and talk to God. When you feel like eating, because your body will cheat you. And your body will tell you, you've done enough. Or like, maybe you can chew some bubble gum. That's the best one. Or maybe you can suck on sugarless candy. Don't do that. You have to pray. You have to pray God to strengthen you physically to receive that sacrifice. How is the other way you can pray? You should pray backing yourself up in scripture. You shouldn't be praying like, oh God, I really want to eat. God, I would love to eat. You should pray like, God, I know that you are the Almighty. I know that you're with me. I know that this is how I do it, because I had trouble with it. Since I had starved myself. I'm not going to say that I fasted, because this is the real first time that I'm actually fasting. Because every other time it was just glorified diet. It's true. I carry no shame. I was justified in the cross. Peace. Okay. And whenever you pray with a target. For example, like I'm telling you, you have an idol. Food for me is the hardest thing to let go, because I weighed 150 kilograms. I had a bariatric surgery, but the bypass. I don't feel hungry, which is even worse, because then you always want to eat. So when you're praying, pray with a specific target. Pray with a specific thing that you want. Don't use your fasting as a ladder to 155 things that you want. For me, this 60-day challenge, has one single goal: killing my flesh so that I can worship only God. This is simple. If you overcomplicate it, if you start paying attention to how you're looking, if you notice that you have gone more than 12 hours without praying, you are doing it wrong. You are not fasting for Jesus. You are not fasting for a spiritual breakthrough. You are not doing what a spiritual discipline calls you to do. Okay? Now, why am I sharing this? Because no one told me. I never saw anything like that on the internet. Last year, when I was fasting, when I fasted for 40 days, and I shoved myself with bubblegum and sweeteners, and it was just ridiculous because it was a glorified diet. And no one told me, no one said those 3 specific things. It should be about dethroning false idols. It should be about spiritual discipline, and it should be about spiritual warfare. If you do it to be thin, to be pretty, so that people notice you and how strong and how dedicated you are, Pharisee, it's not going to work. Jesus is not going to receive that. Okay? And why am I saying this? Because you don't have to go it alone. You can join me and watch this next 20 days until the end of my fasting, which I will, in this next 20 days, I will podcast every day, and it's going to be better because tomorrow's going to be earlier. But I'm going to tell all the details of all my failures, all the stories, all the things that worked for me and didn't work for me, and all the backing up with scripture, because Proverbs, I don't remember the number, but Proverbs says that someone gives you an information and it's gonna really sound like it's true unless someone comes and then questions that person. So you have to be very thorough with where and what you hear and what you acknowledge as information to be true. So you can follow me, and in my YouTube channel there is my school community link, so that you can join us and we can do this together. Because again, God told us that it is easier for us to walk together, because if one falls, then the other one helps you stand. Okay? And this is exactly what I'm building here, because that's what God called me to do. Create a community of consistent women that are awakened and that love Jesus. Okay? He's the king, people. Let's kill the flesh.